Nice. Yes. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the summer 2018 season of the Lowell Lecture Series, the Aquarium Lecture Series. Generous support from the Lowell Institute allows the Aquarium to offer these programs free of charge, and we are grateful to have their support each season. Tonight, our lecture will be live streamed and recorded. This lecture and many others are available on the New England Aquarium YouTube channel and WGBH's forum network to share with your friends and family. I want to say a special hello to Florencia's friends and family and colleagues who are watching us on the live stream, and to just say thank you so much for sharing Florencia with us this week. I'm sure you all miss her, and it's been wonderful to have her with us. I'm Elizabeth Stevenson, and I'm the program officer and chair of the Marine Conservation Action Fund, which is a program of the Anderson Cabot Center for Ocean Life here at the New England Aquarium. And through MCAF, we do two things. We give microgrants to conservation leaders around the world working in developing countries. We were honored to support the work of Florencia Vilches in Argentina with a grant in 2016. And the second thing we do is we work to build enduring relationships with the people we fund, with our grantees, so as to support their long-term success as agents of change for the ocean. And we do this through several means, including through our MCAF Fellows program. And with our Fellows program, we bring selected grantees from around the world to the aquarium to spend a week here with us. And they learn from our Anderson Cabot Center scientists and our educators and our staff. And in turn, we learn such a great deal from our fellows as well. On Sunday, Florencia will be traveling to Lubec, Maine, where she'll be spending 2 weeks working very closely with our North Atlantic right whale team. And that will only further enrich the information exchange, the exchange of expertise and knowledge and great stories, I'm sure, that has already happened here this week. We also work very hard to raise the profile of the work of our fellows through the aquarium's public platforms, including through our Aquarium Lecture Series, as we're having here tonight. And we connect our fellows with a global network of their peers. And when our fellows are here, they inspire and engage the youth in our aquarium programs and in local schools in the greater Boston area. And it's been a great pleasure to watch the impact of Florencia's knowledge, her dedication, and her passion on the audiences she has reached this week, and most notably with the youth in our teen intern program. And to see the great skill she has in communicating her work, and most importantly, the joy she has for sharing it with others. This week here with Florencia has truly been a tale of two right whales, because just as Florencia's organization that she works with, the Instituto de Conservación de Ballenas in Argentina, has a 47-year history of studying southern right whales. Almost 40 years ago, the New England Aquarium launched the North Atlantic right whale program here. Now, the North Atlantic right whale, numbering at about 450, has been described as being on the verge of extinction because of the impacts of entanglements in fishing gear and ship strikes. And these are issues that our team is working on every day through innovation and research and education and outreach and advocacy. Now, fortunately, Flo's whales are in much better shape, but as you'll hear tonight, they face their own unique threats and challenges. And just like the New England Aquarium, the Instituto de Conservación de Ballenas is taking a multidisciplinary and comprehensive approach to their conservation, the conservation and research of these charismatic animals. Before I introduce Flo, I just want to say express our deep gratitude for the supporters that make the Marine Conservation Action Fund and our Fellows Program possible. The Fellows Program is funded by a grant from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, as well as generous individual donors. And the program is also supported by the New England Biolabs Foundation, the Curtis and Edith Munson Foundation, again by individual donors. We have an MCAF committee that reviews all the proposals, the grant proposals we receive, a volunteer committee. The Lowell Institute for contributing to the Fellows Program by helping to bring these lectures to you. Women Working for Oceans, who's a key supporter and just great champion of the MCAF program, as well as our grantees and fellows for all the amazing work they're doing across the world against really great odds and very challenging conditions and carrying on. Florencia Vilches has been studying the southern right whales of Patagonia for close to 10 years. After graduating with a degree in biology from the University of Buenos Aires, Florencia began her career as a volunteer at the Whale Conservation Institute in Argentina, later running their whale adoption program, and now as a key member of their research team. Florencia conducts outreach activities with whale watching tourists and school children aimed at raising environmental awareness. She is also a teaching assistant in environmental management at the Argentine University of Enterprise and a Marine Conservation Action Fund Fellow at the New England Aquarium. Ladies and gentlemen, Florencia Vilches.
So, good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming. First of all, I would like to thank the MCAF for letting me be part of the Ocean Conservation Fellows Program, which is allowing me right now and have allowed the other fellows to be here with you, sharing how marine conservation, education, and research are being done in other countries. And I truly hope that it can continue promoting the exchange of inspiring ideas, multicultural point of view, and also exchanging experiences among fellows and among a lot of people working for the protection of the oceans and its species all around the world. So this evening, I would like you all to join me in a trip to Patagonia to get to know how southern right whales have been studied continuously by following the lives of known individuals for longer than any other species of whale in the world. But before doing that, I would like to tell a little bit more about my trip to them, or their trip to me. I'll still figuring out which way it went. Back in elementary school, I was already pretty much the whales and dolphins lover cliche. So while all my classmates would draw their family members or their pets or houses, all I drew was that. That was done by me. It was painted by me when I was 11 years old. during our art class, and we had a very simple assignment. We just have to paint or model whatever was on our minds back then. So I decided to reflect on this plain white canvas, the marine landscape I kept on having on my mind, and that I kept on watching in these marine documentaries I watched. This is currently on my bedroom wall for me to remind me that early age passion. Time went by, I grew up, I became a teenager, and I realized that for actually getting to protect whale and dolphins and get to know the threats that they face, I got to become a marine biologist. I got to become a scientist. And that only convinced me even more about my desire, because I imagine that doing science for a living, to have the chance of practice your curiosity and your wonder for a living, was so interesting. Every time somebody would ask what I was planning to study, I would say, well, I would like to become a marine biologist. And not everyone around me was that happy or that convinced about that idea. So I would get all sorts of responses. I got comments like, can you even study that in this country? Are you actually going to earn money out of that? And here's my favorite. Well, you better find a wealthy husband, because you're not getting any wealth nor societal status out of that career. And believe it or not, that happened in this century. But fortunately, not everyone around me thought that way. I was lucky enough to have a pair of parents that were loving enough and caring enough to encourage and support that elementary school girl painting whale in a canvas, even though we live in a country that barely invests in science. So I went to college, and exactly 10 years ago, I was in my third year when I got to know that Dr. Roger Payne, was coming to Buenos Aires to give a lecture. So for those who doesn't know who Roger Payne is, he's the president of Ocean Alliance, which is a nonprofit association here in Massachusetts. And he's also the starter of the Save the Whales social movement of the 70s that was against whaling. He also is responsible for two key whale findings. One of them is the fact that humpback whales actually sing songs. The other one is this unique pattern of callosities right whales have on their heads. And I will go back to that latter fact in a couple of minutes. So I attended the lecture that was really inspiring and entitled Existe un futuro para las ballenas, which means, is there a future for whales? And I got to meet Roger, at least from my seat, I got to meet him. He wasn't aware that I was there at all, but I wouldn't mind. But without knowing, I also got to know my future friends and colleagues, because this lecture was organized by the Instituto de Conservación de Ballenas, which was my very first job, and I have belonged to this amazing team since then. So the Instituto de Conservación de Ballenas is an Argentinian non-profit organization. It was founded in 1996 in Buenos Aires, when we began cooperating with Ocean Alliance to conduct the right whale program in Argentina. And our mission is to achieve healthy oceans and a world free of threats and negative human impacts for whales and for the environment. So for doing so, we monitor the status of the right whales at Patagonia, at Península Valdés. we provide science-based scientific data for local authorities to make sound conservation decisions. We also work on environmental education initiatives and in marine conservation strategies in Latin America. So in 2008, when I attended a lecture, I immediately became a volunteer at ICB. I started collaborating with the translations of English-Spanish documents, and shortly after, I became the coordinator of the adoption program, which is a donation program for individuals. And at the same time, I got to start participating in the field seasons. So, as I said before, our study object is the southern right whale, which might look quite similar to the North Atlantic right whale, but these are actually two different species. And there's a third right whale, which is also a third different species, and they distribute in the North Pacific Ocean. Actually, these three species have been separated almost for the same amount of time as we humans and chimpanzees. So the southern right whale species distribute all along the southern hemisphere, where it is estimated to, the size of this species is estimated to be about 11,000, which might sound like a large number, but it's actually a quarter of what is estimated that was the size before whaling. As you might know, the right whale is called like that because it used to be the right whale to hunt. So whalers would hunt them because they move so slowly, and this is actually a short video of a Patagonian right whale. You can see how gentle they are, how slowly they move. They are also coastal. They float when they die, and they have the thick blubber layer on its back that was transformed into oil to lighten cities and towns. Their baleen were also used for manufacturing brushes, corsets, and also umbrellas. Fortunately, right whale hunting has been internationally banned since 1935, but these populations are still recovering. So, southern right whales, we've recognized at least 4 populations of them. We have one in Australia, another one in New Zealand, a third one in South Africa, and the fourth one calves in the waters of Península Valdés, which is in Chubut province in Patagonia. So they use these waters as a calving ground. They take advantage of these temperate and calm waters that are inside these gulfs. To the north, we have Golfo San Jose, and to the south, we have Golfo Nuevo. They use these waters to give birth, to nurse their calves, and also to wean. They are mostly concentrated in the highlighted areas. They are from May, June through December, and after December they go to the south to feeding areas. And Península Valdés is a very special place. It has been designated as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO because of its unique biodiversity. And it's also a natural protected area in Argentina. But besides its huge and rich biodiversity, it also has these multicolor, unique, and magical sunsets. The minute right after I took this photograph, that sky turned purple. So these are the magical skies you get to see at Patagonia. So I think we all agree that right whales look kind of funny. It's pretty hard to find where the eye is, where the mouth ends, and that is pretty much because they have these callosities on their heads. They are born with these, and these are patches of rough and thick skin that are covered by little invertebrates called cyamids or whale eyes. Their body is like yellow. So as they cover the callosity, we get to distinguish the patch of callosity from the surrounding black skin. So what Roger Payne found was that the number, size, and position of these patterns along the head makes a pattern, and that pattern is unique in each individual. So if we could get a photograph of the head of these whales, we should be able to individually identify them as we humans can be individually identified based on our fingerprints. Another finding Roger got was that this pattern remains almost unchanged along the years. So we should be able to identify these whales along all their lives. This was a striking finding because if we are able to take photographs every year, these whales are in Península Valdés, we should be able to build a database. And that's basically what Ocean Alliance and ICB have been doing since 1971. So we annually, every September, one day in September for one gulf and another day in September for the other gulf, we fly along the perimeter of the peninsula. So every time we encounter a whale, we will fly around that whale in circles to get a good photograph of its head. And we also record their location and whether they have a calf. So we have been doing this for several years. And at the very beginning, before the arrival of computers and cameras, digital cameras, we have to do this by hand. It was an artisanal, handmade job, a big one. So we would print these photographs, crop the area showing the head. We would manually compare that head with all the other heads in the catalog and then file that based on some striking feature. Fortunately, digital cameras arrived and computers arrived, so we can keep on being healthy people. And this is the software we currently use. This was created by Lex Heavy and Phil Lovell, and it basically recognizes what's a callosity and what is skin, and it creates a 3-dimensional model that it will be transformed into a 2-dimensional model. And that 2-dimensional model, it overlies that 2-dimensional model on all other models available in the catalog. So the more it overlaps, the more chances we have of having a match. So the program would show you the best 70 whales, the best candidates of being that whale you are looking for. So by then you have to manually go through all those 70 whales to be sure if you have a match or not. If you have a match, then it means this is a new sighting of a known whale. If you do not have a match, then you should add this as a new individual to the catalog. So we have been doing this for the last 47 years, and we now have a very, very long database that is constituted by 3,200 individual whales. Some of them are part of a 4-generation family. And all of this job has been done by Professor Victoria Roundtree, who is a co-founder of Ocean Alliance. She's the director of the Railway program. She's a curator of this catalog, and she is one of the most generous persons I've ever met. So, based upon these results, we now have valuable scientific data about the basic biology of this population. We now know that females reproduce every 3 years on average. We also know that they have their first calf at the age of 9. We also know that, fortunately, this population is growing, and they do so at an annual rate of between 5 and 7%. And we estimate the total size of the population to be between 4,000 and 5,000. And as we fly along the perimeter of the peninsula, we also know that they have changed their distribution along the calving ground. So now that we have this basic data about the biology of this population, long-term databases can serve as a sensitive indicator of the health of this population. This is the main use of this long-term database, as well as the North Atlantic right whale catalog that is curated by the New England Aquarium also is. So, as you might know, the North Atlantic right whale is critically endangered because of entanglements in fishing gear and also because of shipping strikes. Well, this doesn't happen to be the case for southern right whales of Península Valdés. We do get these individuals, as you are watching, being entangled in fishing gear, and less than 1% of our whales show lesions that are pretty obvious to be caused by ship strikes. But these are not the main threats they are facing right now, which doesn't mean they are completely healthy. So, with these aerial photographs, we started seeing back in the early 70s that these lesions, rounded shaped lesions on their backs, became more and more frequent. As you can see, most of them are calves. So at the very beginning, we thought this may be caused by an infectious disease. But shortly after, we realized this was actually caused by an animal, most specifically a gull, that learned how to feed on the skin and blubber of living whales. This is a kelp gull. In Spanish, we call it gaviota cocinera, which would be translated as cook gull, because they mainly eat anything, as most gulls would do. So we took advantage of this long-term database of photographs we had, and we used it for scoring the number and size of the gull lesions on this whale's back. And we did it for all the photographs since the 70s till the first decade of the 2000s. So if you see the graph on your right, and you pay attention to the black columns, those columns represent the presence of lesions on living mother-calf pairs. And the gray columns represents the presence of the proportion of mother-calf pairs without lesions, the healthy, safe ones. So as you can see, back in the 70s, just 2% of the mother and calf pairs showed lesions on their backs. So it was an exception. This proportion escalated along the years because, as you can see, during the 2000s, 99% of the mother and calf pairs showed these lesions. So it became a rule rather than an exception. Actually, if you go right now to Patagonia in a fast run, it will be very hard for you to find a healthy back among the whales. So these retrospective findings actually are very similar to the ones we have been gathering since 1995. We have been gathering behavioral data based on observations we made from land. We have 2 observations point, 1 on each gulf. We do this from the cliffs using telescopes, and what we do is that we follow mother-calf pairs for at least an hour. So we stay in those cliffs Between 5 and 6 hours every day during September. This is what we see after a 40-minute walk to one of the observation points, to one of the cliffs. It's not recommended for people suffering from vertigo, as you might see. And I'm sorry if you're feeling dizzy about the walking GoPro. But as you can see, it's totally worth it. The view is totally worth it. So what we do is we follow a mother and calf pair for at least an hour, and for every 5-minute interval, we record how frequently they have been attacked by gulls, and whether the calf or the mother was attacked, and whether the gull attacking was an adult or a juvenile. And we also record the mother-calf behavior. So we have been doing that since 1995, and these are the main results. So this graph is showing the percentage of intervals with attacks. Out of all those 5-minute intervals we collect during a whole month, during all September, we plot that along the years. So just pay attention to the straight lines. The red one is showing the results from Golfo Nuevo to the south of the peninsula, and the black one is showing the results from Golfo San Jose to the north of the peninsula. In both cases, you can see that the percentage of intervals are growing. So these are similar results if you compare it with the aerial service one. And we also got to know that the main target are the calves. At the very beginning of this interaction, the main target were the mothers, and more frequently, they are going more after the calves. So you might be asking by now, why is it that this interaction is becoming worse? Guess who the guilty ones are? So the local guard population began to grow since the 70s, and this is possibly because of the poor management of urban waste and fishing discards. Besides that, the fact that we are seeing juvenile gulls also feeding on whales shows us that they learn this attacking behavior from their parents. So learning and imitation might be cooperating to the spreading of this attack behavior. So whales, the consequences of these interactions are of course negative for whales. One of the consequences is that they suffer from this harassment. Here are two photographs showing the before and after the attack situation. On your left, you can see the moment right before the gull attacked this mother's back. As you can see, that's a calm mom just slowly swimming with its calf on her side, and the gull has just landed on that mother's back, and she pecks on the whale's back. And as you can see on the other photograph, the mother arches its back, and that's because she's in pain. As you can see by the foam around the head, she have just arched. So as a consequence of this, we also realize that they have changed their behavior. A regular whale will rest exposing their back to the surface, but this is not what these whales are doing. So they learned how to rest in a galleon position, as galleon boats. In that position, they would have their head and their fluke on the surface, but they would hide their backs underwater to prevent the gulls from attacking her. this is a regular position for nursing, and we have seen that when the calf is feeding, but it's definitely not a natural position for be resting. And the sad news is that calves are not able to do this, to rest in this position, just because they are too small to do so. Besides that, they can hold their breaths for a shorter period of time than their mothers. So they have to surface more frequently and thereby be exposed more frequently. And the main consequence of this interaction between gulls and whales is that they are changing their behavior because they are forced to swim faster, their nursing periods are interrupted, their resting periods are interrupted, and all these harassment make them spend extra energy avoiding the attacks, which is a serious thing because, as you might know, they are practically fasting during calving. I mean, you can have and get copepods in the waters of Península Valdés, but it's definitely not a feeding area. So they are living upon the energy store in their backs as blubber, but that blubber is meant to be transformed into milk so the calf can feed on that milk. So if the mothers are spending extra energy, extra blubber on avoiding the gulls, then most probably that calf wouldn't be that well fed. This is the main conservation issue, and we are really trying to deal with it. But this was a video I wanted to share with you just to let you know that not all interspecific interactions in Península Valdés are that sad. These are dusky dolphins interacting with a mother-calf pair in Península Valdés. And that's a quite rare calf because he's mostly white. We get between 5 and 6 of those each year, and we call them gray morph because they are born like that. Most of their body is white, and when they begin to grow, all that white skin become gray, but they are not getting all their bodies black as a regular whale would. So in Península Valdés, there's one stable, not stable, but main town, permanent town, that is called Puerto Piramides. And in Puerto Piramides, we have the hub of the whale watching industry in Argentina, and I might say in South America. Since the 80s, they receive thousands of tourists each day, and they have been chosen as one of the 10 best places in the world to do whale watching by National Geographic. Fortunately, we have a great relationship with whale watching operators. There are 6 whale watching companies in Puerto Piramides, and we annually meet with them to share our more recent findings about our research projects. And they also share with us their everyday observations they have out of spending hours and hours on water. And besides that, they take thousands of close-up photographs from June through December. Even though we nationally recognize as the southern right whale like an iconic national species, actually they have been chosen recently to be in our 200 bill. And it also has been designated as a natural monument in Argentina. But it is the community of Puerto Piramides, the one who acknowledges the cultural, economic, and ecological value of these whales. They feel these whales are their whales. So in these annual meetings we have, they came up with this great idea that basically consists of them providing us with their photographs, their whale photographs, so we can enrich our database. Because we do know that as the population is growing and as we are doing only one aerial survey per year, we are missing whales. Actually, as our identification system is based on the callosity pattern, if a whale is just resting with their belly up, or breathing, or just diving deep, we would miss them. Actually, we do know that some whales arrived to Península Valdés after the aerial survey date or leave before the aerial survey date. So they had this perfect idea and we were thrilled about it. But we didn't actually know how to incorporate bow-based photographs into our aerial survey catalog. So just in case we said yes to them, and we received 500,000 photographs, literally, like 460,000 bow-based photographs taken between 2004 and 2016. So thanks to NCAF, I was able to travel to Salt Lake City and spend 3 months in the University of Utah working with Vicky Roundtree, who is a professor there, to be trained by her in the use of these softwares we use to identify whales, and to work with her in the incorporation of these photographs, in figuring out how to actually develop a method, a protocol on how to do so. So we did. And we started analyzing the very first set of photographs. And even though we just analyzed less than 1% of this huge and promising database, we already found some very interesting results. So a very good example of those results is shown by family 403. This family started with whale 403, actually. She was identified when she had at least one calf, and this first calf was called 403 because of her mother, -75 because she was born in 1975. So this whale later on had a calf of her own, and that whale will be named 403-75-93 because she was born in 1993. And this latter whale would have later calves of her own. She had at least two. I said at least because we were able to identify these two, but we know she had more. So she had one calf in 2003 and a second one in 2006. This was all we know based on the aerial survey photograph. This changed when I started analyzing the bow-based photographs. So I was analyzing Alexis Firamonti's photographs, which is one of the whale-watching photographer. He took these beautiful photographs in 2005. These are gray morph calf as the one we saw on the video. And based on the pigmentation marks he has on its back, I searched for him in our catalog and happily found a match. So I got to know that we did know this individual. We have seen him just once in 2006, and we did know that was a juvenile based on the size of its body, but that was all we knew. Thanks to Alexis' photographs, we got to know the age he was back then, and even though that calf was with his mother back then, the Alexis photographs didn't show her pattern nor her back to see if she also has some pigmentation mark too. But I went on the photographs taken in that year, and I was going through Stephen Johnson's photographs, which is also a whale-watching photographer, and I realized that he also photographed this mother-calf pair. And his photographs did show the pattern and the back of this female. And I searched for it in our catalog, and again, happily found that this also was a known individual. So out of this match, we also got to know that journal we knew and that was named randomly actually belonged to this family. So we got to know his age, and we got to know which family he belonged. So now the name is changed, and we do know also that this female had a calf on 2005. And there they are, the two of them, so cute. Another good example of the value of this boat-based database is that we get to fill in the gaps of whales that we haven't seen for several years. Whale 27293 was seen for the first time in its year of birth, 1993. She was seen again when she was 1 year old, and then several years went by without seeing her until 2008 when we see her with a calf. But if you see, this is a long time period between 1994 and 2008. And I mean, to us, it's very, very important to get to know what's happening with the calving success or failure for that female during those years. So I was analyzing Stephen Johnson's photographs again, and based on that white mark she has on its back, I was able to find her among Stephen Johnson's 2004 photographs. So we get another great thing of this collaborative project is that we get to fill in the gaps. So as I said before, based on this less than 1% of analysis we have done already, we found some very interesting results. We were able to add 105 new individuals to the catalog, and we were also able to increase the number of sightings of 45 previously known whales, some of which haven't been seen for at least 16 years. We were also able to know the age of known individuals and also able to establish their mother-calf relationship. We were also able to extend the information on the calving intervals, how frequently are they having calves, and we were also able to identify the whales in a broader time period, not only on September. So in this way, we will be able to inform residency times, which means how long they stay in the area according to age class and sex. We are very looking forward to keep on analyzing this promising database. And besides enriching the findings we already have, we hope we can know more about the social bonds based on documenting whales that are repeatedly seen together. And we also hope we can tell more about the health condition based on analyzing skin lesions and scars. I'm currently the director of this project, but I wouldn't ever have been able to do it without the help of many participants. This is Camila Muñoz Moreda. She's an undergrad biology student at the local university. She has been volunteering, collaborating with me in the analysis of these photographs. She lives in Patagonia. And of course, these are the whale watching operators at the Whale Watching Association Guides office. That photographs, I love that one because that was actually taken in 2016 meeting. And I was showing to them how the software we use to identify whales works. And for doing that, we were searching for an actual whale. But for doing so, we were using one of their photographs. And I already knew we were going to get a match. I already knew that was no whale, but they didn't. So those happy faces are the faces they put after finding out we did have a match. that we were able to find a match based on boat-based photographs they took. So I think this is a very good example of how the joint efforts of researchers and supportive, committed, active citizens can actually have a direct and positive impact on the health of whales and their environment. So, I mean, it's so rewarding to actually get to work with the community that best knows what the value of these whales is. So, again, at ICB we do many things apart from this. So I wanted to share with you a video that summarizes some of the other things we do regarding conservation and education and also other research projects.
Ellas son el alma de nuestra acción. Para preservar las ballenas y su medio ambiente, en el Instituto de Conservación de Ballenas realizamos estudios científicos y aplicamos sus resultados en programas educativos y en estrategias de conservación. Aplicamos técnicas de estudio benignas como la fotoidentificación. Realizamos observaciones de comportamiento, seguimiento satelital y empleamos nuevas tecnologías, generando el conocimiento científico necesario para monitorear la dinámica de la población de ballenas e identificar sus amenazas. Realizamos actividades en escuelas, museos y universidades. Producimos materiales educativos e informamos a través de los medios de comunicación para generar conciencia ambiental en las personas y estimular su compromiso en la protección de las ballenas como un patrimonio natural y cultural. Promovemos la conservación. Brindamos información científica a las autoridades. Participamos en foros donde se decide el futuro de las ballenas e impulsamos la creación de áreas marinas protegidas y santuarios para conservar el hábitat y asegurar la protección y el bienestar de las ballenas a largo plazo. Porque es posible estudiar ballenas sin matarlas. Porque en la educación está la clave de un mundo mejor para todos. Porque conservar la naturaleza nos hace respetar la vida.
So speaking of how to help, I would like to share with you how you can actually help whales and their environment, because it can sometimes be frustrating if you don't have the time or if you don't live near the ocean, how you can actually do something for them. So just providing some ideas that you can use for doing so. I think one of the best ways of actually doing something for the ocean in general is to volunteer at a local non-profit organization, which is actually what I did. I would say, like, the smaller the organization, the more they will need your time, your energy, and your help. So that's a great and truly rewarding way of actually doing something. You can also promote initiatives in your community, and your community might be your neighborhood, your office, your school. I would say just grab your ideas, connect with supportive, committed people, and just build synergistic bonds. Stay informed, of course. All that you can read, all that you can, as long as you can get educated, informed, I think it's our first duty as responsible citizens. Spread the word as much as you can learn. Just make other people around you know what's happening with oceans worldwide, with local whales. And also, you can actually adopt a whale. So the New England Aquarium and also ICB, we both have adoption programs, which are donation programs for individuals. We picked some of our photo-identified whales to be in this adoption catalog. So in this way, you get to know more about the life story of the whale you adopted, and you also get some cool stuff like a certificate and some tote bag, maybe some plushy whale. Well, it depends. You can do that. I mean, in ICB, we have Mochita, we have Cassiopeia, we have Antonia, we have several famous whales you can know about. So I think that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for your attention, for coming here, and for your interest. If you have any questions, I will be happy to take them now. Yes?
So, is there any effort to educate about marine plastics and their threat to whales in Argentina?
That's something like. Oh, yeah, sorry. I need to repeat the question. Well, she asked about initiatives in Argentina to prevent plastic pollution, especially regarding whales. Well, it's in their early stages. I would say the campaigns promoting awareness are in the very early stage. Actually, there's no recycling system at all if you do not live in the city of Buenos Aires. I do not myself live in the city, and I would have to personally go and put my recycles in some club of the neighborhood or something like that. And that's like the best going on right now. This awareness of not even consuming single-use plastic is not even on the horizon. It's an unfortunate thing, but yes, it's not happening yet. Oh, that's a lot of hands. Yes.
I'm wondering about the seagulls who are feeding on these poor whales' blubber. Are there any efforts to try to get them away? Find the gulls something else to eat, figure out what else they can do besides attack?
Yeah, well, the question is related to legal attacks. How can we prevent them from happening? It's a hard and serious problem we have as researchers because the Patagonian landscape is a difficult landscape to access. And besides that, that is a natural protected area. So it's not that you get to go wherever you want. Usually bird populations are managed by collecting the eggs and just shaking them to manage the growth of that population. So you cannot do that in Patagonia because of the landscape characteristics. So the local authorities did start a project that included a shooter on a small boat, just shooting the individuals attacking whales. But that lasted just 2 years, and it was limited to the whale watching area, which is a small area if you take into account all the peninsula. So as it lasted just 2 years, we wouldn't even know if that would have been successful. But apart from that, there's nothing currently being done for that. It's not. She asked me about the possibility of attracting them to a different food source. They are so smart. I mean, they already have so many sources that wouldn't be possible. Yeah.
The various southern right populations
if they cross with each other, the populations among them.
Right, or do they always stay completely separate
Yeah.
in the Antarctic and when they're in the Cat?
Okay, he asked about the population, the southern right whale, different populations crossing with each other. No, they do not cross. Actually, a population is defined as several individuals of the same species overlapping in the same geographical space and time. So they, based on genetics, we do know they are keeping as separated populations. Yeah.
I was wondering if, as the gulls attack, if you've noticed any kind of infections or
Well, there have been one or two bacterial species that have been identified, especially based on a diamond-shaped kind of lesion. And besides that, you can see how they are getting these swollen patches around the lesion. Yeah, that's a good question, and I didn't mention that. Thank you for that. They can actually act like vectors because they do go and feed on the dam sites and then go and feed on living whales. So they might be acting as vectors of fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Yeah.
Is it known if these gulls are feeding on any other marine mammals, or is it just the right whales because of their like large blubber and being so slow and spending more time at the surface?
Not that I know. They might, but not that I know. No. I do know they feed on the placenta of the sea lions. You know placenta? Okay. Of the sea lions. But other than that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I don't.
No other documented like feeding on living
No.
animals?
No. Yes. I'm not repeating the questions. Sorry.
You've got this cool picture of the whale like resting with its stomach on it. Do the gulls ever try to feed on the stomach, or do they like flip over really fast?
Yeah, it's not. This is, I mean, that photograph is actually beautiful, but that's not that common. They usually rest with their bellies down. For them to see them like that, the sea needs to be really flat. Yeah, and if they, some of them get pecked on their bellies, but they would turn right really quickly. Yeah.
I'm just curious how long that they generally live, do you know?
Oh, that's like the most common questions I get. How long they live, she's asking. Well, since we started this database 47 years ago, now almost 48, we know that they live at least 48 years. But we don't know for sure how, I mean, like the maximum lifespan they have. We do know based on other records that whales are really, have a really long lifespan, like bowheads can live almost 200 years. But we should, I mean, keep on doing research to find out that, yeah. Yeah.
It's great to see the photo they do work because you're doing all the integration. Do you have a plan to keep going forward with that work?
Yeah, she's asking if we plan to keep going forward with the photo identification. Certainly. That's like that's the spine of our research projects. Like all our research projects are related to our photo ID database. So we are planning to keep on doing both of them. The aerial service one, so we can keep updating the aerial survey catalog, and we will keep on analyzing the bow-based photographs. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, she's asking if we do necropsies. Yes, we have a program actually working since 2003. We do necropsies on all the whales that are stranded on the beaches of Península Valdés. So that program is coordinated by ICB, but also other institutions such as Fundación Patagonia Natural, WCS, and some universities, including the University of Utah. And so we do have this huge database of samples, tissue samples, including ballenas. Yeah, we do have, and actually some of our research projects are based on that huge biological data. He's asking about the frequency of the strandings and if we have mass strandings. We do not have mass strandings, and actually the pattern of the deaths along the years have been totally erratic. We have a big die-off in 2012. If I'm not wrong, we had 116 calves that died. That's like a peak on our chart. But that's going like erratically up and down, up and down. There's no trend we can acknowledge. Yes.
Gracias por tu charla.
Yay! Spanish speaker. De nada.
So I'm wondering if the gull problem has been affecting other populations of the southern right whales in other
No,
locations.
that's an endemic issue. She's asking if the gulls have been attacking other populations of southern right whales. No, this is totally endemic from Península Valdés.
Keeping with the gulls, if I understood correctly, you said that the gull population was going up because of human dump sites.
Yeah.
So is there any effort to get the dump sites under control to maybe bring the gull population down?
Yeah, there have been some efforts to close the dump sites, the urban waste dump sites. There have been some efforts on that. The fishing discards are harder because it's like more like a multidisciplinary kind of travel. You have to see it with the fishing industry's people, so it's like more complex. But yeah, the urban waste dump sites are, the local authorities are trying to close that up. You're welcome. Yeah. Well, they feed mostly on krill, Antarctic krill. We found that the years that follow El Nino phenomenon, this weather phenomenon that rises the sea surface temperature. So this rise in the sea surface temperature will shrink the ice sheets in Antarctica, and under the ice sheets, all these algae diatoms developed, and the krill feed on these algae. So if the ice sheets are shrink, then the krill would have less food, so we will have less abundance of krill, so the whales will have less food for themselves. So what we've seen is that in years following El Nino phenomenon, they have less calves than normal years. So, sorry? Yes, so just to finish that, so we, based on that, we do know that changes in the abundance of krill do have a direct impact on their calving success.
I understand that the penguins are having a difficult time, and I wondered if they were competing with the same food sources.
Well, there's several species feeding on Antarctic krill. Those are actually the base of the trophic wave there. So there are a lot of species that have been competing upon krill, and they have been doing so for many, many years. So I don't think that penguins are like a big competitor for right whales. Yeah.
Actually, I have read that one other major competitor for Arctic krill is companies that
Yeah.
will harvest them
Yeah,
Guess what, guys? You can get omega-3s from flax seeds and walnuts. Don't eat them.
totally. I go with you. Yeah.
Flo,
Yeah.
2 more questions?
Okay, 2 more questions.
The family 403, which was the
Yeah.
generation, are there kind of the identifying marks to those carried from generation to generation too?
I what? Sorry.
The identifying marks
Yeah.
on the whale, do those carry from generation to generation? Is there a pattern that you can see? From
No. That's not in their DNA. No. We do see that males usually have like thicker patches, but there is no information on their genes regarding the callosity pattern.
Sorry, I have another question. The callosities you said are roughened skin.
Yeah.
That naturally occurs, and then they get the whale lice on them. Do we have any idea why they have the patches of roughened skin naturally, like why it occurs?
I wouldn't know. These are like cornified epithelium tissue they are born with. But as far as the like adaptative beneficial they will have out of it, well, it's like I said, the patches are usually on the very same places we have facial hair. So, well, hair has actually benefits for us humans, but I wouldn't know how callosities improve their fitness. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm curious if you knew anything about that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for coming this evening to hear Florencia's terrific lecture on her work in Argentina. And we'll be having some cookies and lemonade out in the lobby. If you can join us out there, that would be fantastic if you want to meet Flo and ask her a few more questions. Have a great evening. So why don't you head out? Okay, go.